Now on WKYT Midmorning at 10 a.m., details on a traffic alert in Lexington that continues to impact drivers near downtown Lexington.
Counting down to Kentucky's primary, the Democratic presidential candidates are returning to the Commonwealth.
And the message the Obama administration is delivering to public schools today about transgender students.
This is WKYT Midmorning.
Good morning to you. Bill Bryan and Barbara Bailey here for WKYT. It's Friday the 13th, but we're lucky when it comes to weather.
You know, I hadn't really made that connection. You're
Really?
right. It is Friday the 13th, but nice weather today. What about the weekend, though?
That's the question, and let's just enjoy what we have. Let's check in right now with Micah. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, it's a nice little break, isn't it? It's beautiful outside, a few clouds here and there, but no rain in the forecast for today. We travel in towards your afternoon. We go from the 50s and 60s to the upper 60s, lower 70s, even though we have a lot of sunshine outside, as steel winds are coming in from the north, so it's pumping in some cooler air. 72 degrees later on today, extremely nice. The focus, though, is not about today. It's about the weekend. We do have a rain chance for the weekend, and then we're looking at a frost possibility coming up on Sunday morning, and I'll show you those numbers in just a few minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. It has been a problem for hours. We've been reporting on it for several hours as well, but here at Midmorning, a stretch of High Street that has been closed because of an overnight crash is about to reopen.
Now, police say a truck crashed into a utility pole around 3 o'clock this morning. This is a live look from the scene between Ashland and Clay Avenues. Kentucky Utilities is working to repair a transformer that was damaged in the crash. Power was just restored to about a dozen KU customers. The road is still closed, but as Bill just said, they are about ready to reopen. Download the WKYT Weather Plus Traffic app to find out when that road reopens.
Hillary Clinton's campaign has just announced this morning that she will be returning to Kentucky ahead of Tuesday's primary. Details of her visit have not been released, but the Democratic frontrunner is planning to be in Kentucky both Sunday and again on Monday. And her challenger is not budging from his vow to stay and campaign in every state until the end of the presidential primary season. Senator Bernie Sanders will be holding rallies in Kentucky and Bowling Green tomorrow night, and then he will also be in Paducah on Sunday. Democratic leaders are increasing the pressure on Sanders to end his campaign to allow Hillary Clinton to fully pivot toward the general election. Clinton's husband made a surprise stop in Lexington while campaigning for his wife. He stopped by Thursday Night Live. Former President Bill Clinton passing through Lexington on his way to his last scheduled stop of the day yesterday, which was a rally last night in Floyd County.
Now, a week after House Speaker Paul Ryan said he wasn't ready to back Donald Trump, Ryan is now calling the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, quote, very warm and genuine. The two men met privately yesterday to iron out their differences, and now they say they're totally committed to working together. A manhunt is underway for a gunman in Manchester, New Hampshire, who shot and wounded 2 police officers. Police say the officers are recovering at hospitals. Authorities describe the gunman as a white man with long hair who's wearing a trench coat. A number of schools in the area are closed today, and residents on Manchester's west side are being told to stay where they are.
The Obama administration says it wants to clarify the expectations of public schools across the country when it comes to the rights of transgender students. The Departments of Education and Justice are releasing a directive today, reminding school districts that they are obligated to treat transgender students in a way that matches their gender identity. The directive says that includes their access to bathrooms and locker rooms.
Well, people using fake accounts like Donald Trump and racist McShootface suggest that the bidding in an online auction for the gun George Zimmerman used to kill Trayvon Martin has been hijacked. At one point this morning, the bidding surpassed $65 million. But the account of the leading bidder has been deleted. The website for United Gun Group began hosting the auction yesterday after another website took down the auction. Well, a missing Tennessee girl has been found safe more than a week after she was kidnapped by her uncle.
This wasn't far from Middlesboro, Kentucky. Police say Gary Simpson checked out 9-year-old Carly Trent from school last Wednesday. They say 2 men found Carly and Simpson yesterday in a remote area of Hawkins County that's near Kingsport, Tennessee. They say one man held Simpson at gunpoint while the other called 911.
Each one of us has been praying, every day to help us to find this little girl. And And so finally, I answer prayers.
Police say Carly appeared to be okay. She was taken to a hospital to be checked out. They arrested Simpson. They have charged him with aggravated kidnapping. Police say he could face additional charges.
Lexington police are looking for the man who attacked a woman overnight outside the Kroger on Tates Creek Road. Police say the man got into a struggle with the victim over her purse. She suffered a bloody nose in the process. Well, this weekend, the names of 6 fallen Kentucky police officers will be added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C.
One of them is Richmond Officer Daniel Ellis, who was killed in the line of duty last November. His family, friends, and fellow officers are already in Washington. Yesterday, thousands of officers finished biking hundreds of miles, all to honor fallen police officers. WKYT Sean Moody will be in Washington, D.C. covering the ceremonies to honor Kentucky's fallen heroes. You can see his reports starting tonight on WKYT News at 6.
The Kentucky High School Athletic Association says it will look into claims of recruiting by the Lexington Catholic football team. The Lexington chapter of the NAACP alleges that a coach recruited a 14-year-old student who was later said to be the target of a racial threat by a 17-year-old fellow teammate. The Herald Leader says KHSAA is looking at the case to see if there is a need for an investigation. Lexington Catholic has denied the recruiting violations.
City Council has approved a 5-year contract for body cameras for Lexington police. Police say they expect those cameras to arrive by late June. At first, about 100 officers will have them, but eventually 400 Lexington police officers will be fitted with 2 cameras each. The Herald Leader reports the more than $2.5 million contract approved by the Council also covers storage costs for the video. And the cost of that had been one of the concerns about getting the program going. Well, starting on Monday, Avenue of Champions in Lexington is going to be closed for 2 months.
The closure stems from the $200 million rebuilding of the University of Kentucky Student Center. Construction on UK's campus has been going on for more than a year now. Avenue of Champions will be closed from South Limestone to Lexington Avenue, so if you go that way, keep it in mind.
Yeah, don't get caught on Monday morning, right?
Well, 8 people are going to share last weekend's $430 million Powerball jackpot.
The New Jersey Lottery says they will claim the game's 6th largest jackpot today. The purchaser bought 2 tickets and chose the smaller lump sum payment, turning a small investment into $284 million before taxes. Only 1 ticket matched all 6 Powerball numbers in Saturday night's drawing. The odds of winning are 1 in almost 300 million, so they beat the odds.
Yeah, and as a group, each member gets a pretty good chunk.
Yeah, that's
pretty good chunk of change there.
Pretty good.
Well, keep it right here this mid-morning. Love may be the hardest puzzle to solve.
Yeah, one Chinese man found that out the hard way. We'll have his story of rejection coming up after Micah's weather.
A lot of sunshine out there today. It looks good. It feels good. Off towards your weekend. Much cooler air slides on in, and the potential for some frost. I'll have that coming up next.
Now, your zone-by-zone forecast with meteorologist Micah Harris.
Only a couple clouds out and about, and none of that is going to give us rain for today. It is a dry, boring forecast in store, and let me tell you, after the days we've had, I love boring. I'm cool with that. Going off towards your weekend, well, there comes a little bit of the other side of things that we've been dealing with. We've been on the warm, humid, and also stormy side of things. Now we're going to flip the script and actually go down with our temperatures and bring in a little frost there for the weekend. Let me get into that in just a few minutes. But it's a good looking start to the day. 60 degrees now in Lexington as you step out the door. Monticello, my friends down in Wayne County, good morning to you. We're at 64 degrees, and if you work your way over toward the east and southeast, all looks well. Northern zones, you're looking just fine too. Right around noontime, we'll be in the mid-60s. And those winds right around 10 miles per hour, which actually make it feel pretty decent. Let's go into the afternoon. We're talking about the upper 60s to lower 70s, kind of depending on where you are. And then we travel off into the evening. Evening's just fine if you're heading out to eat. I don't see any problems. Probably not patio weather once that sun sets right there around 8:30. That might be a little bit cool. But watch as we go overnight and into tomorrow morning. Look what's showing up. A little rain in the forecast. Now, this is no thunderstorm action like we've been seeing. This is no severe weather threat, nothing like that. These are a couple of showers here and there, and that's about it. There's 8 a.m. It starts off in the north, right around 5 a.m., give or take, and then slides south and southeast, so right here in the bluegrass I would say anywhere from 6 a.m. to about 9 a.m. is when you can expect it in the bluegrass as of now. Once we hit the afternoon, it fades away. So southeast, you'll have it till about 10 or 11 a.m. and then it fades away. And once it fades away, then you're talking about some sunshine creeping back in here. But look at the temperatures. Look how much cooler they are. Highs on Saturday and Sunday, we're talking right around 60 degrees. That's a good 10 to 15 degrees below average. And that Saturday morning rain, anywhere from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., then the afternoon looks dry. And then you're talking about patchy frost on Sunday morning. Sunday looks good and dry, but man, waking up that morning, you may have to throw some sheets on your plants Saturday night into Sunday morning, because there is that possibility of patchy frost. I don't see any widespread frost, but nonetheless, there is that threat. Then we take off toward next week, guys. Should I even talk about next week? Should I just leave it out of the forecast right now?
Well, I don't know. That
here
depends.
Comes storms. Look at the 7-day. 60%, 60%. We're back
I think
in
that looks like last week's. Maybe you got confused, and that's really last week.
It really does, honestly. If you remember last week, Monday was mainly dry, then we got some late storms, and then it was one system after another. That's exactly right. That's what it looks like next week, too.
Enjoy the brief break, huh?
I know. Here we go.
Thanks.
Well, a man in China picked a puzzling way to declare his love for a woman.
The man spent hundreds of dollars on Rubik's Cubes to create a portrait of his crush. Although creative, the woman of his dreams, who also happens to be his neighbor, didn't fall for the grand gesture. She rejected him. The man says he has no hard feelings toward his crush. He says she was moved by the portrait. That's still sitting in the man's home, by the way. He says his next puzzle is how he's going to move it. That's the next thing he has to worry about, I guess.
You know, maybe what you should do is find out a little bit more if there is a possibility that she will like this portrait before you do.
Right, maybe just
that's a lot of work.
Don't go twisting the Rubik's Cubes just yet.
Yeah.
I get you. All right.
Well, Colin Farrell is on a love mission, and the nice guys take on a tough town.
Danielle Nottingham has those stories and more in today's Eye on Entertainment.
New York City rolled out the red carpet for The Nice Guys.
You're a private investigator?
Just 20 bucks in there, all right? Just take it.
The comedy stars Ryan Gosling as a bumbling private investigator and Russell Crowe as his hired muscle.
I'm a huge fan of Russell's. You know, I always thought we'd work together on something, you know, dramatic. I didn't think it would be in a movie where we're chasing mermaids or talking to giant bees.
The Nice Guys charmed their way into theaters next Friday. Rising country star Kelsey Ballerini performed her hit single Love Me Like You Mean It for Mary Kay's Global Day of Beauty in New York. The event benefited survivors of domestic violence.
When I wrote that song, I wrote it to remind myself that I need to be loved correctly, that I deserve that as a woman, that every woman deserves that.
And out in theaters today, The Lobster, starring Colin Farrell and John C. Reilly.
If you fail to fall in love with someone during your stay here, you'll turn into an animal.
They inhabit a world where it's against the law to be single. Anyone who doesn't find true love in 45 days is turned into an animal of their choice.
I would take to the skies and choose a bird of flight.
Yeah, I'd be a bear. They get to rest half the year.
You're a bit berry anyway.
The Lobster was a prize winner at the Cannes Film Festival last year. And that's your Eye on Entertainment. Danielle Nottingham, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And coming up, a chance to see images of some rare Kentucky structures.
Details about Clay Lancaster's Kentucky exhibit next on WKYT. And tonight's Mega Millions jackpot is $161 million. Saturday night's Powerball jackpot, $50 million.
Hey, it's good to have you on WKYT here at Mid-Morning. You can get an up-close look at architectural photographs of a preservation pioneer. Clay Lancaster's Kentucky exhibit is coming to Christ Church Cathedral in Lexington.
And to learn more about it, we're joined by James Birchfield and Jenny Level, Warwick board members, and we do welcome you very much. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, tell us about this fascinating person, Clay Lancaster, the photographer, and what he attempted to do in his life.
Well, he was less known for photography and more known for historic preservation of architecture.
Yes, it's Preservation Month, and Clay really was the person who promoted historic preservation for architecture in Kentucky. He did his thesis at the University of Kentucky on John McMurtry, an early Lexington architect.
And that was in the 1930s.
Yeah, in the 30s, and it became a book in 1956. And he wrote a book called Antebellum Architecture of the Bluegrass in 1961, and gave architectural descriptions of Kentucky early Lexington houses up to the Civil War. And before, people had written about houses, but they wrote about the personalities. But Clay wrote about the architecture and described it. And then he did a book, Vestiges of the Venerable City, about Lexington up to 1978. And then he did a book on Shakertown architecture. And then he did a book called Antebellum Architecture of Kentucky that covered the whole state.
Sounds like he was really ahead of his time in preserving and appreciating what we have.
Yes,
Most
he was.
definitely. And this exhibit, which will be opening for Gallery Hop on the 20th, it shows what he saw in the 1930s and 40s with his little camera. And the detail of the houses, and so many houses still are no longer here. So it's a look into the history of the bluegrass that we just don't get. And Jim, this is Jim's book that he has written. It contains all of the photos and more in the exhibit.
Right.
It must be very fascinating to go through the books. Then you enjoyed putting this together.
Oh, it was great fun. Clay's photographs were little tiny photographs, and they looked like they were developed in dishwater. They were covered with spots. I put them in Photoshop and made wonderful enlargements. So they really are art, but he just had very crude equipment.
And people can see this exhibit coming up at the Gallery Hop, which is next weekend. It's going to be a big event itself, and then for some time after that, right?
Yes, yes. It's going to be going through the middle of June, I believe. And then on Gallery Hop night, we're going to have food. We're going to have Jim signing the book. We're going to have the Scapa Madrigal singers are going to be in the cathedral singing. So it's really going to be an event. And the location is 166 Market Street, and that's just around the corner from the Fifth Third Pavilion, where the farmers market is.
Okay, that's for the Gallery Hop.
For the Gallery Hop.
Yeah, and then the exhibit will continue
Monday through Friday from 10 to 3:30 p.m.
Very good. And that's Christ Church Cathedral.
Christ Church Cathedral.
Thank you very much for coming in. Good luck with it.
Yeah. Thank you.
And stay with us. We're checking in with Mr. Food Test Kitchen next.
Coming up in just a little while, WKYT News at noon.
An update on a sinkhole in Garrett County that's close to a family's home, and it's growing.
Also details on the graduation of some safety officers in Lexington, and just into our newsroom. High Street in Lexington has reopened now after an overnight crash and a power outage in that area as well.
News, weather, and sports ahead at noon on WKYT. Well, take your taste buds on a stroll through the early 90s when this dessert was becoming big on the food scene.
Going back a generation today in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, it's creme brulee.
It's the final day of our week-long throwback series, and what a good time we had as we looked back and shared some of our favorite recipes. Today, we stroll through the 1990s. For those of us who remember, there wasn't a store we went into, including fast food chains, where we couldn't find Beanie Babies. On the music scene back then, you were most likely either into boy bands, hip-hop, or humming the Macarena, since you couldn't get that song out of your head. It was also a time when cell phones appeared. Big, clunky brick phones were in. And remember, you could only talk on them. They weren't cameras, GPS, and you couldn't easily slide them in your pocket. On the food front, convenient foods were on the rise. Lunchables grew by leaps and bounds, as moms found this an easy way to feed the kids. Also, fancy desserts, especially ones that had international roots, were popular. Desserts like tiramisu, Napoleons, and my favorite, creme brulee, were becoming mainstream. I know once you try these with the hard caramelized topping over the rich custard, you'll fall in love with them. I hope you'll go online and get the recipe for our creme brulee. And since it's made in individual cups, it's extra fun to eat. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where every day we're looking for a sweeter way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
All right.
Yes, that's a good one.
It did look good.
All right, let's talk about the weather for today. We're going to be at 72 degrees later on this afternoon, mostly sunny skies. Tomorrow, guys, it's really the morning time we're going to be seeing some of this rain move on in. It looks like as of right now, about 5 a.m. is when it starts and moves on through about 10 or 11 a.m. So the afternoon should be much better. And then Sunday, we're sitting there in the 30s possibly toward the morning hours. So possible frost in the forecast. And then next week we get right back in to that storming pattern in the forecast.
Won't
once
go away,
again.
will it?
All
Good to
right,
enjoy
I thought
today.
we had enough.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much for joining us for Mid-Morning. We'll have all the latest for you here at noon.
Make it a great day, everybody.